What is up? This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakridgeFord.com. Employee pricing wraps up on September 30th. Get in while the getting is good. There's not much left, but discounts are massive. Interest rates are low. Who knows, your next vehicle may lie with us at OakridgeFord.com. I'm Norm, along with Mike. It is Sunday, September 27th, 2020. We still have a Stanley Cup final thanks to Corey Perry, the veteran, scoring in double overtime. And yes, Game 6 will soon be upon us. 3-2 Stars over the Lightning to extend the series. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Norm. Yeah, it was a valiant effort by the Stars after, I think, getting gut punched in Game 4 with that bad call on Jamie Benn in overtime. It was not a well-officiated game. I hate, especially in the playoffs, when officials get in the way of the play. Obviously Tampa Bay still got to be favored since they're ahead in the series. But, Perry, you see, again, Corey Perry, this is a guy who was bought out by Anaheim, who went to a team where he thought they could win for a low price, $1.5 million with bonuses. He's an unrestricted free agent, and it's coming up in a couple weeks. And on both teams, you've seen these veteran guys who were bought out, like Shattenkirk, like Zach Bogosian, like Andres Sekera, who have all played sort of key roles in support situations for both the Stars and Tampa Bay. And I think that should be a signal sent to Kyle Dubas that, if you have the opportunity to go out and get a veteran on a cheap contract, why not? Because I think that's better than having Marty Marinson or Freddie Gauthier in your lineup.
Yeah, this is the Leafs Convo for Oakridge Ford. Joe Pavelski, another guy we were talking about on a previous convo recently, chipping in, helping Dallas even this thing in the third, and then Corey Perry putting it away 2 overtimes later. Was that a lack of close by Tampa, or do you think this is just all part of the ebbs and flows of a series that will probably end in 6 games, Tampa winning its second Stanley Cup?
I think it's ebbs and flows, but those are two players with a lot of playoff experience. Tyler Seguin played probably his best game of the playoffs yesterday, and I don't think there's any quit in the Stars. I do know that both teams are getting beat up physically. You've seen guys like Faksa and Como out of the lineup for Dallas, and obviously Stamkos, which I thought it was stupid to bring him back in Game 3 early in the series. If you needed that emotional rallying point, like that would be probably Game 6 tomorrow night. And even if he played a couple shifts, which he did before getting re-injured, I think that would have been more beneficial to the Lightning. But they've taken a beating over a number of series through this playoff. So every time it's in the playoffs, it's a war of attrition, and it's going to not only be the best team, but it's going to be the team that's the deepest and has the biggest heart.
Potentially 72 hours out from the wrap on this crazy, unprecedented, historical NHL season. Less than 2 weeks out from the next NHL entry draft. What do you think the Leafs do with their 15th pick? Do you think they actually make it, or do they deal it?
It's funny because there's the 3 options. You could keep it and pick whoever's there, and this is a relatively deep draft. So you could get a quality forward, or less likely you get a quality defenseman, because there are 2 defensemen who are generally ranked in the top 10 or the top half of the first round. Jamie Drysdale from the Erie Otters, who played on the Team Canada World Junior club, and Jake Sanderson, the son of former NHLer Jeff Sanderson, who's a member of the U.S. National Development Program. They're widely accepted as being the 2 best defensemen in this class, and then it sort of drops off a little bit. And at 15, any of the other defensemen may be a reach, which I think is a possibility that Dubas, like he did 2 years ago, possibly trades down from 15 and maybe gets an extra draft pick and takes somebody in the lower half of the first round. But there's also a possibility, and it's been floated out there in a number of scenarios, of whether they're offered a defenseman, the defenseman that they're looking for, whether they would trade that pick. And I don't think that Dubas would hesitate, but it depends on the defenseman. I don't think they're going to give up a first round pick for a guy who maybe finishes in your top four, or even a bottom pairing guy. It's going to have to be like probably a package, including the first round pick, to get a top pairing defenseman. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know how it's going to unfold. We saw a trade yesterday that was purely a cap maneuver by the New York Rangers, and they had to give up a second round pick to get Detroit to take Mark Stahl's contract. So you're going to see a lot of those moves as well. Toronto's probably not going to do that because they don't have like players with a year left that they want to dump. The only scenario that's similar to that is maybe the Freddie Anderson situation. If they think they can find a goaltender for a longer term for a cheaper cap hit, they might make that deal and then trade Anderson someplace else for a draft pick. But I mean, it's going to be a very interesting few weeks for Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, certainly. And for the fan base, we wait with bated breath to find out what the genius does to help elevate these Maple Leafs that seem stuck in a world of talent, but a world of stagnance along that journey towards the Stanley Cup. The Leafs have made some strides, but they are nowhere near where they need to be. And I'm eager to see what Kyle Dubas can do. Mike, Bruce H. in community wanting to know who the Leafs might draft at 15. You've answered that question. Converts, OGs, thank you very much for all of your participation, especially in community. Below our last post, just an outrageous amount of comments. Everybody dialed in. Everybody concerned but excited and engaged in the convo and what we're talking about in regards to the team that we love and loathe so much, the Maple Brothers. Mike, right now, is Kyle Dubas focused on growing and augmenting this group in order to take a push towards winning a Stanley Cup? Or do you think that he still believes that in time, his team, as he grows it slowly through development, will evolve into a champion?
Well, I think, and it was mentioned by Brendan Shanahan in the season-ending press availability that, one of the keys here is for the players that are already here to sort of harden and be tougher in terms of, the experience. And I mean, that's what he saw in Detroit with a guy like Steve Yzerman. Yzerman early in his career, prolific scorer, but they could never get past the first or second round. And it took years, but eventually he became the two-way player and the leader that got them to a couple Stanley Cups. So I think that's part of it. It's the maturation of Marner and Matthews and Tavares, although Tavares is mature and he's 30 years old, and Nylander and a few other players. But I think Dubas recognizes that the team is not good enough in specific areas. I mean, the hard work is over with here. I mean, if we did the convo 5 or 6 years ago and there was no Marner, no Matthews, no Nylander, no Tavares, then you're looking for core players, and those are difficult to find and difficult to. Well, they have found them. They've kept them. Now they have to find the support players and maybe tweak one or two here or there to be good enough to have a legitimate chance to win a Stanley Cup. And everybody knows it's the right side of their blue line, and maybe, the future of their goaltending, depending on where they want to go with Frederik Andersen or who is out in the market. So, I mean, it's a challenge for Kyle Dubas. I think he's up to the challenge. I know a lot of people don't agree with some of the decisions he's made. We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to be. I think if we had a signal that things were going to be different, it was sent last year when they traded for Kyle Clifford, when they traded for a legitimate backup goaltender in Jack Campbell. Campbell will play probably 25 to 30 games this year, and he's the real deal in terms of a backup goaltender. And Clifford provided the sandpaper that was sorely missing on this team. The thing is, they need 2 or 3 Kyle Cliffords, just like they need 2 or 3 Zach Hymans. They need those types of players. You see them on Tampa Bay. You see them on Dallas. Those people win you games.
Lots of listenership, but most of those who listen are not subscribed to us. I don't know if you're waiting or if it's not part of the way you patrol YouTube and your favorite podcasts on all platforms. You just want to listen. But we don't spam you. It's 2-3 podcasts a week. That's what will come up on your feed. We'd appreciate the subscription if you can give that to us. It's absolutely free, and like the content as well. Thank you so much for all you do for the convo, Mike. Just looking back on the past few collabs, the idea that Freddie Anderson would be supplanted by someone a bit younger and cheaper, but in the same realm of talent. Wayne Simmonds was a name that we were talking about. I don't know if he's still out there as a possibility to be that Corey Perry type. Clearly not at that level, but to bring in the sage and wisdom and the rough edge that the Leafs probably need to help get them to where they want to go. Obviously, Alex Pietrangelo is someone that as long as he's destined for the market, the Leafs will be connected to. Are all those balls that are up in the air still balls that the Leafs could actually knock out of the park?
Yeah, well, let's tackle them one at a time. Simmonds, it's all dependent on price point. I'm not 100% sure the Leafs are in on him, but I can say that if they are, it's going to depend on whether he will take a veteran minimum or close to a veteran minimum deal. You see, like Detroit signed Sam Gagner to a 1-year deal for $850,000. The Sabres re-signed Curtis Lazar, who was their Masterton Trophy nominee, to a 2-year deal for $800,000. I'm not saying Simmonds has been a star player, has been a 30-goal scorer, and he may believe that he can still do that. There are doubters out there based on what he's done the last 2 years. He's going to have to take a Tyler Ennis prove it deal somewhere and show that he can do it. Then he probably earns himself another contract either in Toronto or someplace else. But that's the price you pay for visibility and being in the Toronto market, is taking a veteran minimum deal when a team is basically capped out. As for Anderson, I mean, the market just keeps growing in terms of goaltenders, but I'll take Kyle Dubas at his word. He's not going to make this move as a lateral move. He wants to upgrade in goal. In my mind, there are very few options in this goaltending market that is conceivably an upgrade. Maybe Braden Holtby on the right contract for the right term. Definitely Robin Lehner, but I think Lehner is re-signing in Vegas. Maybe Matt Murray, but it's gonna cost you in terms of trading something for him and then signing him. But if you look at the amounts, if the amount that Lehner is reportedly getting from Vegas, which was 5 years at $5 million, is an indicator, then first of all, Jim Rutherford is not going to be able to demand a first round pick for Matt Murray, and second of all, Matt Murray, after his career worst year, can't demand $5.5 million. Now, he's a 2-time Cup winner, so he's going to get paid. But that's the whole thing. Can they find a cheaper goaltender who's an upgrade over Freddie Anderson? We'll see.
And Mike, we were talking about this on the last podcast, and you can catch that, guys, in the feed. Power players is what you're looking for. Boreas Salming was the last true stalwart type defenseman the Leafs have had 40 years ago. Someone brought up Larry Murphy, and that guy was amazing, Hall of Famer. But with the Leafs, he wasn't what he would become with the Red Wings. Anyway, Alex Pietrangelo could be that next guy.
Yeah, and I thought the interesting thought that Pierre LeBrun expressed this week, maybe has some merit, especially for teams that are with limited cap space, like Vegas or Toronto, and that was the potential of a sign and trade, which we always hear about in the end, and it always happens in the NBA, but very rarely, I don't think ever, has happened in the NHL. But I think that it's possible, because if St. Louis won't agree to the terms that Pietrangelo and Newport Sports, his representatives, are looking for, whereas Vegas or Toronto would, it's a way for St. Louis to get an asset for Pietrangelo instead of letting him walk away for nothing, and the other team being able to spread out the AAV over 8 years instead of 7, and then lowering the cap hit. So, I mean, if Toronto is truly interested, that may be the way that they end up going, and maybe an Andreas Janssen or a Travis Dermott or something like that is involved. But I think that in the Pietrangelo situation, Kyle Dubas has to play it out completely, because he is the type of player that they're completely and utterly missing And if they don't do everything they possibly can to get him, they'll regret it.
They went after guys like Tavares and won. They missed out on Stamkos, thankfully. I wonder if Kyle Dubas believes it's time to accelerate what he's created and the process here by making a move for someone like Alex Pietrangelo. I think most people believe he would be a major upgrade, not only on the blue line, but to this team. Or is Kyle Dubas still thinking big picture? These questions, I'm not sure will be answered anytime soon, unless he does find a way to sign Alex Pietrangelo. And then, I get really excited about that. But I know a lot of our OGs and converts disagree. Have your say below this post. And in community, last thing, Mike, what's on your mind in terms of buyout bargains?
As I said earlier about Corey Perry and Sakura taking less, and so did Shattenkirk in Tampa. We saw the buyout of Bobby Ryan with Ottawa, and I'm not saying Bobby Ryan to Toronto, but we know that there are going to be a lot more buyouts happening over the next couple weeks. I think the buyout window is until October 8th. And if there are defensemen out there that are bought out, and there's the possibility of somebody like Oli Mata being bought out in Chicago. I mean, that's not somebody I would bring in for $4 million, or Carl Alsner, who split time between Laval and the Canadians, and basically had been a mistake. At $4 million, that guy's a mistake. If you bring him in and he's $800,000, it's something that, okay, you're rolling the dice. If it doesn't work, you can send him down to the minors. If it does work, you have a veteran defenseman on your third pairing. So it's something that I think Kyle Dubas will explore, because it's options. If they have to trade an Andreas Janssen, or if they have to trade Alex Kerfoot, they could very likely go out and find a stopgap replacement for those players with a player who's been bought out from another team. So it's one more potential avenue for Kyle Dubas to explore.
If the Leafs win the Stanley Cup in our time, will we look back and say this is because it was a homegrown effort? Was it an effort accessorized throughout by journeymen and smart, savvy financial moves? Or will it have taken a complete remodeling of the ideology and the pieces that were initially in place to have this damn Stanley Cup paraded down Bay Street? I mean, I'm in it to win it eventually, just like all Leafs fans, and I will be there by hook or by crook or by death or having the time of my life. How is this going to play out? Perhaps it's a coagulation of all of those things, Mike. The Jays wrap up their tenure in Buffalo today, Mike, and isn't it unfortunate that Buffalonians like yourself, who love baseball, were never able to get out and watch the team in person? A Major League Baseball team occupying that stadium, Salem Field, and that beautiful city for as long as it has, and Buffalonians not getting a chance to be there to see it. Very unfortunate, but I think they represented the city well.
Yeah, it really sucked, because I mean, I know that I would have loved to have gone to one of the 6 games that the Yankees and the Blue Jays played at Salem Field. I know that early in the season, there were people who were standing outside of the stadium, like watching it from like there's a strip of grass in between like the exit for the throughway and a highway going south of the city, and people were standing there and they were shooed away by the Buffalo cops. So it's like it's ridiculous. It's sad, but yeah, it's just the reality of the time.
Yeah, we love Buffalo. I know I do, and a lot of our listeners love the Blue Jays, and we're excited for the 16-team baseball playoffs.
I'm for expanded playoffs, but I'm not 16. But I'm for expanded playoffs in the NHL. I think when Seattle comes in, I think they should have a play-in round like they did this year, but not 24. I'd say 20, and then play down to 16, and then have the normal playoff. Baseball, I would expand it a little, maybe to 12 at the most. But I would definitely expand it in hockey.
Michael, what are you working on?
Well, as the Leafs are working towards the draft, I'll be writing more stuff about potential first-round picks. That is until they trade the pick. But I have an idea of a couple, maybe 3, 4 legitimate possibilities for their first round pick, yeah, if they trade down or even if they stay at 15. So people stay tuned and read that on hockeybuzz.com.
Even when there's no hockey that the Maple Leafs are taking part in, there's always news, there's always information, there's always speculation, and there will always be the Leafs Convo. Michael, have a good one. Talk soon.
Thanks, Norm.